Hi guys, it's Dakota. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the Hallowed Cauldron. So today it's sort of a kind of a mix, but it has to do a little bit with, not a little bit, kind of a lot with last week's video when I did the ice double freeze spell. Um, so it has to do with this synchronicity thing that happened. And you know how I mean I think in the videos I've told you before, like synchronicities tend to just kind of like blow my mind. I'm like, they're just really kind of, they're really really cool, but it's almost as if I should expect a synchronicity. I should expect it because I do a lot of work. I do my research. I mean, you know, and at the same time, I really don't have, I mean, I have expectations, but not expectations of synchronicity, if that makes sense. I have expectations that the spell is going to work and this, so expectations of the results, I guess. But when things happen, it's like, oh, how weird, how weird that that would happen when I'm doing this, or, when I've just got done saying that, things like that. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so for those of you who don't know and didn't watch, you might want to check out last week's video. There's two videos, and it's called Ice Double Freeze Spell. There's part one and there's part two. And just as a real quick reminder, so part one was we had an ice storm, and we had some ice. It was supposed to be an ice storm, but it really wasn't a storm. We had some ice, no snow, just ice. And so part one, I had gone out and I collected a jar full of ice. Ice, freshly dropped ice. And I wanted to do some spell work with that. I had an intention in mind, something that I wanted to do. So I went out and I collected the ice and talked a little bit about it. And the video started to get too long. And so then I decided to do a part two. So the main part, so what is this double freeze? Well, if you watch the videos, you'll see. But the main thing is, part one was me collecting the ice. I put my intentions and the herbs and whatever that I was using, that I wanted to use in that spell, right into the ice. So we didn't have snow, but ice, okay? I put it right into the ice, had a candle, lit the candle, said my intentions of what I wanted to do for that. And the spell was, I typically don't do spell work that I'm actually doing for myself on video, because it's very private to me. It's very personal. But I did want to show it to you because it was something that I had thought about, and I've never seen it done before. Maybe I just haven't seen it. So I don't think I'm like, the grand inventor of it or anything, but I had never seen it done. And so it was just something I wanted to work and see how it would come out, which is why I wanted to show you. So the part one, collecting the ice, fixing it up, doing the herbs and whatever. And I had a candle and I lit the candle. And the intention was that I would just let the candle burn for however long. If it burned all the way down, went out, great. If it only went halfway down, whatever. The more important part of the spell was that I needed the ice in my jar to melt all the way, into water, which it did. So once I had the water, that part of the spell, that part of the freeze spell, so I didn't really call this a freezer spell. It was more just like an ice double freeze spell. So the first part of that spell, once the ice melted, that was the spell. That part of the spell was sort of like a two-part spell. So that part of the spell was done and completed. But then I had to move on to part two. So then what I did was, and it's all in the video, I'm just giving you a little recap for those of you that, I don't want to go watch it. Okay, so just a little recap. So then what I did was I took the melted water, melted ice that had the herbs, and I strained the water into a jar, and I took the herbs and I just sprinkled the herbs around my flower garden. It was the intention, part of the spell. That's what I needed to do with that. So that's what I did. The water, the ice, the melted ice that I had used, that melted down, now is back in the jar. And I added, for the second part of this spell work, I added more herbs, a different selection of herbs for the purpose of the second part of the spell. I added a couple drops of oil, different oils, and then I did add a little bit more Florida water to it. And then I took that, I set my intention with that as I was doing it, but at the end I set my intention, and I put that watery, melted ice watery into a jar of water. I put that into the freezer and I let it freeze. Okay, so I've had a few people ask me, well, whatever became of that? Is it still in your freezer? What did you do with it, etc.? So what I did was, and this is kind of slowly starts to begin these synchronicities. All right. So what I decided was I looked at the calendar, and I do a lot of my spell work on the dark moon. I use the full moon also, but I do a good majority of my work with the dark moon, which a lot of people call the new moon, fine, whatever. I call it the dark moon. And so I decided that I looked on the calendar, and when the next dark moon comes, I'm going to set my water, my frozen ice spell out under the dark moon for that energy, and I want it to melt again. So we had dark moon. It was, so I think officially it was, today is Tuesday. I think officially it was Sunday, but you know, it's 3 days in, 3 days out. On your full moons and your dark moons, you have that little bit of leeway of when you can do it. And I actually did it Monday, so last night. So I took my frozen jar and I put it out under the dark moon. However, it has been freezing. It is freezing here. So it's been dropping down to, like, you know, the mid to high 20s at night. And but nevertheless, it was all about intention. And I said, no, I want to put this out in the dark moon and let the dark moon do its thing. And if my goal was, I really wanted it to melt. I really, really wanted it to melt. But I knew that it would not melt under those conditions. And I was okay with that. I had to be okay with that because this is what I wanted. I wanted the energy of the dark moon mostly. But I did want it to melt. So it did not melt. So the fact that it didn't melt, I thought, well, I'm going to leave it out here. The sun was shining, and I'm going to leave it out here. I'm going to do my video and talk about it, and then it will, you know, hopefully be melted. In the meantime, things happened this morning, took care of errands and just different things that happen. And so anyway, it melted. Okay, so it melted. Now this is what it looks like, melted. So this is the second round of herbs. So the first herbs that I put in the ice with the candle, I strained, put the herbs out in my flower garden. This is the actual ice water. This is the ice that melted. I strained the herbs out and I was left with this water. I took this water and I added specific herbs that I wanted for my, in addition to my part 2 of this particular spell work that I was doing. So this had different herbs, had some oil, and has just a drop or two of Florida water in it. And then I took this, and this, and folks, this is all the water I got from this whole jar. I mean, it was packed in of ice. When you do something to remember, if you're going to collect ice or snow and you want a significant amount of water, you need to collect a lot of snow or a lot of ice. This was completely packed full, and this, in fact, I set a candle in the ice. I took a an apple core and I had to like drill a hole in the ice. It was so solid I couldn't even like do anything with it. Um, but this is all the water that it gave me. The whole jar full of ice when it melted was only this much water. So just remember that when you're doing your work. But anyway, so then I take it out, I put it under the full moon. It doesn't melt. However, it's charged with the energy of the moon, and I left it out because I wanted it melted. And I wanted it melted for a couple of reasons. And those reasons have since changed because synchronicities. All right, so originally, that's what I was going to do. I was going to just take the whole jar with the herbs in it. I have several different places around the farm where we leave offerings. Like when we do ritual, that goes one place. When I do my devotions or ritual to my deity, then there's a place for that. Magical things. So it's just a few places around the farm. Well, so I was just going to take that whole jar with the herbs and everything and just pour it into one of the offering areas. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to strain the herbs out and maybe I'll sprinkle the herbs around the garden like I did the other herbs. And I'm going to use the water. I'm going to put it in a spritzer, this little spritzer bottle, and then I'll have that to spritz when I need that. Okay, when I need that energy, then I'll spritz. But then I started looking at the water and it's kind of yellowy, herby infused. And I was afraid that maybe after a period of time it might get kind of rancid. So I haven't done anything with it. I have not done anything with it yet. I decided that I was going to wait and, you know, see if how I felt about it after or see if I got a message delivered or whatever. All right, so in the meantime, message was delivered. And this is where I want to go. Okay. Let me just mention that it is Imbolc. Okay. So now some people believe, or not believe, sorry. Imbolc is February 1st, February 2nd. Starts on the 1st, goes through to the evening of the 2nd. But you know what? That's on the calendar. The ancestors didn't have, that witch's calendar to follow. Imbolc is a season. This is a season. And it's a season. And certain things happen during this time. There's certain things that happen. I'm not going to go into all of the things that happen, but it's um the baby lambs are born and it's about milk, and then the ancestors and the old ones would have milk so they could make the cheese and their butter and just things like that. So it's a season, it's a thing, and that's why it's a celebration. It should be a celebration of renewal. It's a celebration of renewal. If you follow the wheel of the year, which I do. So, okay, so we have Imbolc, but here's what's really interesting is I don't, I, I, I know it's Imbolc because I teach a Witchcraft 101 class at my store, and uh, and so last week we talked about Imbolc because we are getting ready to have our Imbolc ritual, and so it's not like I didn't know Imbolc wasn't here, but I wasn't thinking in those terms. I typically do not do ritual separate from my class ritual because I would either be doing it like the same night or the very next night. And if I'm doing it with my class, um, I feel good about that. And so I rarely do I do ritual like that on my own. Now, there are some Sabbats that I do ritual alone. Sometimes I prefer it. Other times I wish there was a group, but it's just not happening other than my classes, which is great. So, anyway, my point was I'm not even thinking Imbolc, right? I'm not even thinking Imbolc. I'm thinking that it is the dark moon on, I believe it was Sunday, and I'm going to put my frozen jar out on the dark moon. Well, I come upstairs to do my weekly card pool. I'm still leaving the herbs, my jar of herbs in the water, still just letting it sit there and trying to figure out exactly what do I want to do with it? How do I want to dispose of it, I guess. Because the spell has already been done. I mean, the spell's already done. So how do I want to dispose of it? So in the meantime, I come upstairs and I decide, well, I'm going to do my weekly card pool like I always do, see what messages my guides and the divine, the higher source, whatever. What messages do they have me for this week? What do I need to work on? What do I need to release? What do I need to be looking out for? Where does my energy need to be for this week? And so I came up here and I started playing with my cards as I do. And Raven Gramasi's has a deck called the Hidden Path, and I don't use it very often because it's not a tarot deck and it's not an oracle deck. It's more like it's for me, it's more like a kind of a informative deck. So it's sort of like a Wheel of the Year deck. I mean, it's got all of the Sabbats. It's got talk of the god and goddess and different things like that. um and but I thought, oh yeah, let me pull the Imbolc card and from the deck and just see what that's all about, see what the book has to say, because I do have to read the book. These aren't for me divination cards. That's what it is. It's not a divination type card for me. So I pulled the Imbolc card, which is here. Hope you can see that without the glare. And so you can see the god right here, the god statue, oh, right here, the god statue. And he still has like some frozen ice hanging on him, on his antlers and such. Well, the sun god is in an infant stage, born at Yule. We're at Imbolc, so it's really sort of at that infant stage. And then you have the goddess, who is really, I mean, she's young mother now, and she has a cauldron below her right here, and that's that cauldron of fire. That cauldron of fire. Imbolc is a fire Sabbath fire festival, and so it is that. But the cauldron also represents wisdom and knowledge and power and intuition and inspiration and all of those types of things. So there is the cauldron, and then on the altar, it looks to me, I've not been able to tell, and I haven't really read the whole thing about Imbolc in this deck, but it looks like the fire within that chunk of ice. That's what it looks like to me. So I pulled that, and as I'm looking at it, I thought, well, this is really interesting. Um, this really had a lot to do with my spell. Not Imbolc so much, but just this imagery with the ice and the fire within the ice and the cauldron, hallowed cauldron. A cauldron is very sacred to me. So I read it, so I got the book, and what I picked out, I didn't do the whole thing, but I just picked out this that Imbolc is about um, things being stagnant, frozen, not able to move. We're just sort of hibernating in this whatever, whether it is an energy that isn't serving your highest good, and it could be a job situation, it could be home life, it could be uh, not enough income, so prosperity, relationships, just where you are mentally, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the last couple of years, where that people are just really, just tired of everything, and we're just really, just kind of this. The energy is becoming very stagnant, and very irritable. It's just really kind of very irritable. So then it goes on to say that this force must be brought must be brought forward to free that situation. And in order to do that, we look at our inner flame, and the inner flame heats up that ice and melts it away, so that that inner flame, that passion, that light can shine again, can be bright again. It's newness. It's about beginnings, new beginnings, and creativity and inspiration, and passion, desire, goal, ambition, all of that. Fire. That's what it is. It's that fire within. And that helps to melt that ice and really let that self come forward. So then I got to thinking, oh, I sent my jar out on the dark moon. And that was Imbolc. And I got that message. Well, Imbolc is a new beginning. Imbolc is here in the Northern Hemisphere. It is the light half of the year. And so I decide I'm going to pull the Oak King, because the Oak King rules the light half of the year. And so there he is, and he rules the light half of the year. So I read about that. He is about growth and gaining power and gaining his strength and increasing. It's about increasing. And if we think about Imbolc, and we think about, we just had summer solstice, and we're moving, or not summer solstice, I wish, a winter solstice, and we're moving towards spring. The sun is waxing, the days are getting longer, and the nights are getting shorter. Um, and so this is the waxing time of the year. Like the sun is increasing, the sun is increasing. And I thought, this is really crazy that I don't really think of the Sabbats the way that I should, on my own, other than what I'm practicing in class, etc. And or teaching the class. We do our rituals. We have ritual every Sabbath, um, and for me to, I had this, as soon as I woke up that morning and there was ice out there. I mean, I wasn't thinking about any kind of magic, any spell work, or any kind of thing like that. But that morning when I went out and I saw the ice all over the ground, I mean, it was like boom. It just instantly hit me what I needed to do with this ice. I was going to take advantage. I was going to use that ice as an opportunity to do some work that I felt I needed to personally do. And so although I didn't share my words, and although my spell words with you, and I didn't share every detail of it, I did share with you what I was going to do and how showed you how I was doing it as inspiration um, for you and for me. And using the candle and the ice, it was sort of like, and I used a black candle fire within the ice. And I've seen ice bowls before where you make a bowl out of ice with a balloon. And you can put a tea light in the middle of it. They're really, really awesome. Great to use for winter solstice and also for Imbolc. And, I want to say it was too coincidental, or the synchronicities and everything that happened it was just really mind blowing for me. Uh, the fact that I had decided I wanted to do this spell work, it was something that it was something that was long needed. And I've done things here and there working with that thing. and and yet the thing each time loses power, which is part of the thing. Um, but this was a this was something that I just felt it in my bones. I said I wanted to do this, not a freezer. I mean, I did have to put the water in the freezer to freeze it after the ice melted, but it was sort of this double thing. Like, it was just a double thing that I just knew that I wanted to do. And but never once gave thought to Imbolc, and how ironic that I do the majority of spell work my personal spell work on a dark moon. Preferably, I will use a full moon. I use any moon. Look, if that spell needs to be done and it needs to be done today, I don't care where the moon is. I'm doing it. So I'm not waiting. You can't wait. You can't wait. I mean, if it's an emergency and you got to do it, you got to do it. I'm not going to wait. So I do it because it is about the intention, and it's about your knowledge and your power, and putting it together, and just knowing that it's the right thing to do. And so then, I look at the calendar, and because I'm thinking, okay, well, when is the next dark moon? And I'm like, on Imbolc. What? And then to have read this, um, and yeah, anyway, so it was really, really powerful for me. And, I just, I'm sorry that I keep talking about the ice spell. I mean, I did 2 videos. How many do you need? But this isn't really so much about, hey, let's look at this spell. This is about the end result and the synchronicities and the power and the manifestations that can happen when you do your work. And I do something every day. I work every day, not just with my devotional practice, but um, I'm an observer. I look at everything. I look for messages pretty much. I say that I look for messages, but I observe. I observe things. And through observation, I think messages come. So, yeah, so that's it. And, uh, and I loved it. Will I ever do the spell again? I don't know. Oh, so I almost forgot. Oh my God. Oh, so I almost forgot. Let's finish the synchronicity part. Okay. I almost forgot this because this hit me just when I was reading the cards. Okay, so like I said, I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and maybe I'll strain the herbs and put the herbs in the garden, and I'll just pour the water out at one of the offering sites. I had decided, against doing the mist because I didn't want it to get rancid and whatever. Um, but it still had just been sitting there until I read these, until I read these. And what really stuck out to me was the fire within, the fire within, the fire within, ice and the fire within. That being stagnant, being frozen, not being able to release it, and that fire within. And I looked back on my video, that the picture and you can only see it on the profile, I think. I don't show it in the video, it's just that profile picture um, of the candle in the ice. And I got to looking at that and I'm like, wow, the fire within. That's amazing that I did that and I didn't really even think about it. And then it hit me. This is this is going to be the completion of this spell. I am going to strain the herbs that is in this second freeze. This was the second freeze. I'm going to take the herbs, I'm going to strain them. I am going to pour the water in one of the offering sites. I'm going to dry the herbs. And once the herbs are dry, which shouldn't take long, once the herbs are dry, I'm going to burn them. Where? In my cauldron. My altar cauldron. I'm so excited. I mean, I don't know. Okay, well, anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it. I hope it made sense. If you have questions or any kind of comments or in addition to, or that's dumb, whatever. As long as it's not like, just super negative or whatever. Um, but yeah, I just really, I like to know what people think, because maybe I'm just totally out of my mind, and that would be okay with me. Think I am anyway. Hope you guys have a great week. Blessed Imbolc. Uh, at least light a candle if nothing else. At least light a candle. Be grateful for what you have, and this is a new start to the new year. So don't waste it. Don't waste it. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye. Love you.